How are you lovely people doing today? My name is John. Welcome to a beautiful episode of the Zombie Storyline Q&A. In this series, I take your questions about the zombie storyline and I answer them. Whether it's a big, a small, or a simple question, I'm more than happy to answer it. So either leave your questions down below or tweet me with them at JohnnyJ25. Either way, you may be in the next episode. Without further ado, let's get rocking and rolling with the episode. Today, we're going to kick things off with a question from Gwine Family, who asks, who invented the perks? Please answer. So, I can't say exactly who invented the perks or where the perks came from. That's one part of the story that has just been untouched for whatever reason. However, we can do a little bit of speculation. So we'll start off with the original 4 perks: Juggernaut, Quick Revive, Double Tap, and Speed Cola. They were first seen in the Verrückt facility, which was one of the original Group 935 facilities. Because of that, we can assume that Group 935 invented the Perca-Cola machines, and they were originally used to help the workers who were dealing with the zombies within the Verrückt facility. I can't point to a specific character. I would maybe guess that Dr. Maxis or Dr. Richthofen sort of led the development of the Perca-Colas, although quite possibly it may have been another member of Group 935, since the Perca-Colas have never been attributed to them, and normally when they do something great, like invent, say, a Wonder Waff or a teleporter, it gets attributed to them. But for whatever reason, the perks have never been attributed to anyone. We just assume they were invented by a scientist working within the Verrückt facility. Moving on over to the Ascension perks. Ascension created both PhD Flopper and Stamina Up. Well, once again, we can't say who exactly invented these perks, but we believe they came from some Russian scientist, possibly Gersh, possibly Yuri, quite possibly somebody we have never met nor heard of. It's hard to say for sure. But it makes sense that these perks came from the Ascension facility. So when Ascension was created, it was the largest zombie map, and it's a pretty big research facility. So it would make sense that the workers had something like Stamina Up to allow them to navigate the area quicker, rather than having to do these big hikes across the facility. And in addition to PhD Flopper, this is something that they may have created for the astronauts or quite possibly the monkeys. They were sending several monkeys into space who would come crashing down. Quite possibly they invented PhD Flopper for them so that they could then survive the crash landing. It's hard to say for sure though. The next perk we have is Deadshot Daiquiri. Now, Deadshot's a little bit up in the air. The thing about Deadshot is we don't really have any explanation for why somebody would want to create a perk that allows you to get more headshots. That's sort of up in the air. I don't know why Deadshot would have ever been created, but considering it was found on the map Call of the Dead, it must have been created by some member of Group 935. I'm going to throw this out there, probably completely wrong, but if it was Dr. Hyena who invented the Scavenger, and the Scavenger was seen on the map Call of the Dead, then quite possibly Hyena was in some way responsible for Deadshot Daiquiri, although that is complete speculation with no proof whatsoever. Don't go off telling people that Hyena invented Deadshot. I can't really say that for sure, but that's just my speculation. We assume, though, because it was first seen on Call of the Dead, it came from that Group 935 research facility. Mule Kick, we assume, was invented by the Americans. This is because we saw Mule Kick on Griffin Station, which was occupied by the Americans. It could have been created by Dr. Richthofen, but I'm going to assume it was created by the Americans. It just seems like more an American invention. It sort of has that outlaw vibe to it. And it seems maybe when the Americans were building up Griffin Station and repairing it, it's right by their teleporter, actually, we should note that. Maybe it allowed them to carry more supplies into the map, and that's why they created the perk. And once again, we can't attribute it to another character. Now, let's talk about Electric Cherry and Vulture Aid. These are 2 perks that we might be able to attribute to a person. There are theories that suggest that it was created by Michael Faraday. Michael Faraday quite possibly created Electric Cherry and then sold it to the Alcatraz prison. And then we also think that he may have had some hand in Vulture Aid because it is found within the map, buried in. It's right by the church, which is right next to the house of Michael Faraday. That's just one theory. It's hard to say for sure. I don't know why exactly he would create something like Vulture Aid. I'm not sure why a prison would need something like Electric Cherry, maybe to help contain the prisoners. However, these perks do have the same sort of vibe and I would almost say steampunk style to them. that they were probably created by the same person. But once again, all of this is just speculation. The perks are one bit of territory within the storyline that Treyarch, for whatever reason, never touched. Moving on, we have a question from Mad Mallet Alex, who asks, "Hey John, my question is, why is Nocturne Toten in transit? Was it there for the lulz or for a specific reason? Thanks in advance." So Alex, I don't think it was exactly for the lulz. However, I think the main reason they put it in there is just as a homage to zombies and what zombies has become and grown into. Nocturne Toten was the original zombie map, and they threw it into transit, which was supposed to be their creme de la creme zombie map. It was supposed to be a culmination of everything they learned. As terrible as transit is, it started with the greatest of intentions. Treyarch wanted this to be their shining jewel of a map, and they're just sort of paying respects to where it all began by placing transit within Nocturne Toten, sort of hiding it away in the corn maze as an Easter egg. That's at least why I believe it's in the map transit. From a storyline perspective, transit probably has Nocturne Toten within the map because it's element 115 displacement. It was originally in Germany, and then just through some element 115 displacement magic, the building got relocated. I don't know why, I don't know how, I'm not sure it even makes sense for an entire building to be displaced, but that's the only logical explanation we can come up with. And I mean, when you look at the outsides of a map like Noct compared to the Noct within transit, they don't match up, so there had to have been some kind of displacement. We can't say that Noct was always within transit, especially when we know that Noct was in Germany. Moving on, we have a question from Nyan Boy, who asks, what's the time gap between Moon and transit? So I don't think there is much of a gap in time between Moon and transit. Transit, it chronologically follows right after Moon, and if I had to guess, maybe a month or two at most, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was like a week or so later. I mean, we know that groups like the Flesh had time to develop, so maybe there was maybe a month or two between when the rockets first hit and then when transit began. It's hard to say for sure, but we also have to remember that Marlton was in the Nuketown bunker, and he took the transit bus over to transit. We actually hear the transit bus in the map Nuketown, and at the end of Nuketown, the rockets from Moon crash down on the Earth. So Nuketown and Moon take place at the same exact time. Transit directly follows after. If Marlton goes from Nuketown to transit and you hear the transit bus in the map, quite possibly there is almost no time between the maps. Like right after Nuketown or Moon ends, pretty much is when transit starts off. However, that doesn't give much time for groups such as the Flesh to organically develop. So it's hard to say for sure. Treyarch never gave a definitive time. If I had to give my theory, I would say a little bit of time passed. Maybe Marlton did a little bit of traveling on the transit bus, and then transit begins. Anyway, that's going to wrap things up for this episode of the Zombie Storyline Q&A. If you enjoyed the video, maybe leave a like, possibly subscribe. You can leave your questions down below, or you can tweet me at JohnnyJ25. Have a great day, and bye.